Bam.
Hey, this is Matt Stark, and you're watching the Break It Down show today.
Man, I appreciate you coming on the show. We met on X, and look, you can have a lot of great commentary with people on X. You always have the trump card of saying, "Hey, I was a major league player," right? I can say, "Hey, I've studied, watched, learned, and visited all about baseball." I wouldn't say I'm a fan because I'm not a fanatic, but I love baseball, and I spent a lot of time getting smart about it. But my day-to-day player knowledge from someone who gets to the top league is limited, right? And so I need to understand how to balance like the number side of things, the anecdotal, the history, all these things, and bring in player perspective. So one, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me about this stuff. But what do you do to expand your baseball knowledge? How do you what do you do? Like what have you done and what are you trying to do with what you're doing on X in baseball?
Well, I have an open mind, first of all, with the new styles and coaching and all the things that are new that have come into the game in the last decade or so. My travels and journey is quite unique, and probably most players in the last 30 or 40 years have not experienced what I have in different countries, different coaching, different styles, international scouting, several ways and styles to hit. So all of those things, catching, hitting, at all levels, high school, college. I was an athletic director in college, to all my time at the professional level gives me a little more of a broad look when we hit these topics on X that are new things that haven't upgraded the game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At times, I just voice my opinion.
Yeah. The other day, the Dodgers had Yamamoto on the mound, and he was about to complete a perfect inning. And boy, he center cuts a fastball, and Blue missed it. I mean, this thing, it was not in the center of the zone. It was a baseball above, but fully in the strike zone. And I couldn't believe he missed this call. How unforgivable is that? And why is Dave Roberts still in the game 5 minutes later? I mean, if I saw that, that'd be too much. Like, I don't mind missing on the black, right? Like, that can happen. And maybe my angle is bad, but how do you miss something that's high, middle? And
well, these umpires are graded now. There's technology where they're graded on their pitch calling. In some cases they show it on television in the StatCast box.
Yeah.
And there's never any repercussions. If you're 0 for 4 and you have a slump, you may be sitting on the bench. But for umpires, you're doing your 4 games and you're traveling somewhere else. And it doesn't seem like the grading it's upgrading the umpiring, certainly at the professional level. I don't pay much to it at the college and high school level.
Yeah.
You're correct. I saw the pitch. That could be the outcome of a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it makes you think like, what? Did he just miss it? Is it just a bad call? In some cases we're seeing now with the new style of catching, they're moving the mitt so much to try to deceive the umpire into a strike. The glove movement, not in that case. So we're just seeing different things. Some of them I'm not a fan of. So anyways, I don't have any dog in the fight. But baseball's been my life. I gave my mind and body to it. I had to fight. I earned everything that I received. I had great coaches, great experiences in several different countries.
Yeah.
So, in some free time I have, instead of reading a book, I get on X and, I read.
Yeah.
I see comments. I voice my opinions or give advice. And it's kind of my time, me time.
When you see that pitch from Yamamoto not get called a strike, if you're on the bench, what's coming out of your mouth?
Well, I'm yelling, but Dave Roberts knows that, arguing balls and strikes, it's a no-no.
Right.
But in that case, you know, if it was game threatening, you know, he has to be woken up back there.
Yeah.
So he can't come on the field there in that situation. If he's arguing a ball and a strike, he'll be automatically ejected. But, you know, there should be some rumbling from the dugout, a little professional, respectful few words his way, and let's get back on track.
Yeah. You know, I'm not a manager, right? But I've seen a lot of games, and I know how teams work. And boy, oh boy, I wouldn't have been in that game. Like, I'm going to step out of this dugout. I know I'm going to get rung up, but this guy's going to know if you miss that call again. Like, I'm drawing attention to it. I've got to back up Yamamoto. These guys got to know that I'm going to get hot when this happens.
No doubt.
Again,
I think that's been taken away from coaching staffs and managers, the ability to communicate a little more often.
mhm,
You know, it's just not fines of raised. You know, when you get ejected from a game,
yeah,
different things have affected the manager's ability, like we saw in the College World Series, the
mm,
ability to communicate.
yeah. And then if you go out, let's say like you're managing the team, right? You know you're going to get sent home to the showers. But if you go out there and whoever it is, the umpire, and we're talking major leagues here, and he's like, hey, you know what, missed that one. Sorry, my fault. Not going to change shit, right? Like we all know that. But if they just own up to it, and is there a way to communicate that in that case? Like, did the umpire look over at Dave and be like, "That's on me"? You know, I mean,
Absolutely own up. And that's one of the problems that I think in baseball.
yeah,
Where's the accountability with, you know, the problems we're having? The review system. In some cases, that is a complete joke. When
mm,
reviewing plays and we blatantly see what the call should be, and then it's
yeah,
not reversed. So I don't know exactly what I'm skeptical of that. And so are a
right,
lot of people. The balls and strikes. I mean, why aren't we accountable, and why isn't it improving?
yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, we could go on and on when it comes to this. You know, I'm a Dodger fan. You're wearing a giant hat. Their accountability with
yeah,
the fan base.
yeah,
I mean, all of they're not broadcasters. They're news people who are giving us the news. They're,
hmm,
they're not accountable for anything that happens negatively with the organization. And I think when we met, it was about the myriad of arm injuries that are happening, and they always put a spin on it, and it's not an accurate and honest spin.
mm,
So that's when I get involved with opinions.
yeah.
You know, why is there always a positive spin on something that's negative?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I want to get back into the arm thing here in a second, but I do want to get back into the. I don't remember. I also watch a lot of Dodger games too. I'm a fan of every California team, but I follow the Dodgers probably most closely today. Um, which, which I follow the Angels, I follow the A's, I follow the Padres. I pay attention to these folks, right? But I think it was Tim Never, or maybe it was Joe Davis in the booth, and he was about to call this perfect, inning. And here comes that third pitch, and you saw where that pitch was. And again, I think it was Joe, and he goes, "Oh, Marvin," who was the umpire. I mean, how often does the umpire's name come out? Not in a like to say, and that's Tim McClellan. It's like, oh no, like you've dropped the ball. Like that never happens when an umpire is so noticeable that their name it's just so rare. So one, that's good because the umpires do really a pretty good job overall, great job. But in this case, man, it was so over the top. I would love to know from Major League Baseball, like what happens to Marvin. Like I don't need him to be fired, but it's like, hey, yeah, we noted that, and that's not the standard around here. I don't. If they communicate that, Matt, I never hear about it, right? I need to know accountability. I'm fine with the human element. I don't mind. Like that's the call on the field. That's going to be the call that it is. You want to zoom in for a couple of seconds and see and get it better? Okay, fine. But when you mess something up that bad, man, there
Well,
has
I'll
to
tell you
be
what's going to
something.
happen to him. Nothing.
Nothing. Right.
Nothing happened to him. He's still a big league umpire. I don't know if they fine them for poor games or poor calls.
Right.
Nothing will happen to the umpire. And it's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about the word accountability. Is that accountability? It's not. But I know as a former player, if I'm in a game and that happens, then I got to move on quickly. I can't focus on a bad pitch as a catcher or a pitcher, and I got to move on and continue to compete.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind the current form of replay, but I would tighten it. If Pete was commissioner, he would tighten it up a little bit and say, hey, you're welcome to challenge a call, but you need to do it immediately. There's no reviewing the tape. The umpire made it real time. You got to challenge it in real time. And if that's it, that's it. You get your 2 challenges. And then on the league side, they've got to have that thing done in 30 seconds. Maybe they have one 30-second extension per game for Major League Baseball. Otherwise, the call stands. The default is the call stands. So you've got 5 seconds, not even 10, to say, hey, check that thing from the dugout. And then the league has 30 seconds to get you an answer. And if they don't, then it goes back to the field.
Seconds. We had one, and I'm sure you saw it. Kim, the center fielder for the Dodgers, went up to the fence. This was the other night.
Yep.
The 12-minute
too long
review. I mean, the ball hit the top of his mitt, and it hit the hand of the fan, and it goes over the fence, or it doesn't go over the fence. You know, it pops back in play. Once it hits the hand of the fan, and the fan's over the fence, it's a home run.
It's a home run.
Easy review, like you said, for 30 seconds. It was a 12-minute debate.
Yeah. And again, I don't mind like there being an extension, you know, like, but the league only gets 1 extension per game. Like, get the call done, get it going. You know, we have the technology to do that.
They can clean that up, and they can you know, spend less time reviewing.
Right. Well, and I think also if you force the team to make an instant call and they're into the review, there will be however many reviews, but you're not waiting 30 seconds for them to decide, you know, and to pre-decide these things, right? I don't think that's the intent of what we want. Like, hey, it's such a close play. Let's get it right. But if you're not sure, then yes or no right now. Do you want to review it?
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. All right. So you and I have seen a lot of pitchers get people out in a lot of different ways. And it seems today that, look, I understand the desire because the math is there to say, hey, strikeouts you control. If the ball gets hit into fair territory, you lose a lot of control over where it goes and if it's a hit or not. It's just very hard to manage those numbers. But at the cost of high strikeouts and high velocity, we're seeing just brutal, repeated injuries that are destroying careers. And also on the Players Association side, that's not good for income.
Well, my response is simple. I'm a former player. I had arm surgeries. It cost me several years in the big leagues. So arm care to me personally is extremely important for the high school level, college kids, professionals. Okay, if we're specifically trying to get to the Dodger problem, it never is addressed by the media.
Right.
Like you said, when we met, they're at 34 pitchers used.
Yeah.
This
already
is the last several years. Here's my take. The Dodgers know that they're going to have injuries because of their program.
Right.
Okay, high velocity, increase your velocity, whether it's the driveline programs, the weighted balls, the throwing of javelins, all the new training out there. But where's the accountability to, hey, I don't want to ruin this kid. I don't want to break his arm down. You know, that's the thing I don't like about it. And then address the problem. You know, just because the data says, hey, he's throwing harder and the spin rate's a little better, but hey, his elbow's about to blow out. Do we care about that? No.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's on the Dodgers roster.
Yeah.
I mean, they're picking up guys off the waiver wire now. I mean, everyone, it might have been you or someone else. I asked, name me one pitcher on the Dodgers roster now that hasn't had a Tommy John. I mean, it's like a requirement now.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It's hard to think of someone automatically. I mean, Kasperius, I don't believe has. Rabieski, I don't think has. But I don't know. Like, I mean, I can't go for very long.
They're next.
Oh no, for sure,
I mean,
for sure.
yeah, Arraez is just being abused out of the pen as a long man, or as the new term, bulk innings.
Yeah.
So, arm care for me in my journey is it's a priority. So I don't think it is for the Dodgers, in my opinion.
And I think we both agree. When folks say, "Look at all these injuries," that's a design. Like that's like they know they're going to have injuries, and
There's
so
no, there's no doubt about it now.
Yeah.
After the 4 or 5 year span, I mean,
Yeah.
since 1990, there's
Yeah.
been like 90 guys on the IL from the Dodgers, or
Yeah.
2000.
Right. Yeah.
Years. That's alarming.
Yeah.
Don't you have a responsibility to the game and how you train and the human being itself?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a joke. And you see it where I comment on that quite often on X.
Yeah. It's I don't know exactly what to do about it, because well, what am I going to do about it? I'm fucking Pete. That's it, right? But
weighted balls in the off season with driveline guys who don't know anything about the game. We're getting into the technical.
Yeah.
Game improved in all of these areas that we're talking about. Okay, pitch injuries, no. The pitchers aren't better. They throw harder, and their curveballs spin a little more.
Yeah.
So we have to define what's better and what's working.
This is just anecdotal, but it seems to me, and again, looking at that stupid box on the TV, it's not very accurate, right? So all that said, it seems to me that I see pitchers missing middle all the time. I mean, have you noticed this? I'm like, how did you throw that ball to Aaron Judge, and how did he not myrtleize it? Look, I get it. The game's hard, but so much middle throwing. Like, what's the point in that? Or is it always like that?
Well, pitchers get behind in the counts. Another thing the trends and styles have changed, so that will determine how you pitch guys. Well, the data says you got to hop ahead. Great. Well, now pitchers are hopping on that first pitch.
Yeah.
Most hop ahead pitches on the first pitch are a fastball. So you see hitters attacking earlier in the count. So there's all these reasons why these things happen, why things have changed. Hitting's decline, more strikeouts, less contact, more fly ball outs, more runners left on base. This isn't hitting. This is a launching pad exhibit.
Yeah.
And that saves the Dodgers, God, at least a game a week when Dave Roberts has a pitching blunder. You got Ohtani or Hernandez or Freddie. Someone's hitting a 3-run home run, and then it erases those mistakes. The home run is a great mistake. Clean up the mistakes.
Right.
Dodgers have those guys. Muncy yesterday, 2 of them.
Yeah. I almost said it wasn't that long ago, but then I realized I was talking about the 1980s. So I won't say that, but it has been possible in modern times to win baseball games with just 60 to 80 home runs for the whole team.
No doubt about it. Put the ball in play.
Yeah.
Let's guy over. Let's have a good 2-strike approach. Let's try to train to be a complete hitter. Are we against that now? And then what's happening, we see, and I know you see it, is not all the best instructors or knowledgeable men are coaching at the professional level. I mean, some of these guys are interns. They're buddies of the GM who went to Harvard. They're, like the kid, and I'm sure he's a really great coach, Van Scoyoc for the Dodgers. This guy was a poor junior college hitter. So who's he actually working with, and who's he actually helping?
Yeah.
So, I mean, back when I played, that was a long time ago, you had former major leaguers as your hitting guys, hitting coordinators.
Yeah.
Tito Gaston, John Mayberry. I can go on and on. these guys were proven coaches and players.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I'm obviously older, but, now you have 3-man hitting staffs. There are 3 hitting guys on the team. What do we do? Like 3 guys? I mean, Otani's not using any of them. Freddie's not using any of them. I mean, most of these guys are on their own program. And then the players, specifically for the Dodgers, that they have some impact on, they never improve. I mean, Barnes lost his job because he couldn't hit for the last 6 years.
Right. Yeah.
Chris Taylor.
Yeah. He had a unique job on the team, though. So any hitting probably was a bonus, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
commenting on his hitting, but his hitting declined.
Right.
He started entering with a private guy, not the Dodger staff. And then everything went downhill from there. And now he's over with the Angels.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to just be like angry old men talking about modern baseball, right? Because there's a lot of good things that are going on. So on the Dodger side, on the good thing, having this 34-man staff this year so far. And granted, that includes Rojas and Kike, but they are also have an uncanny ability, a purposeful ability to go out and get a guy off the waiver wire and say, we're just going to have you throw your slider because when you do that, you win. And then I'll be damned those guys do that. Then they leave the franchise and they go and they're not as good as they are with the Dodgers are good at getting the talent out of somebody. Does that wreck them? Possibly. Seems like they do that a lot. Or do they just target guys that are wreckable, that are already going to get hurt? And they're like, here's what we can do with you and get you some more time in the major league roster. Is there any good side to this stuff?
No, there's a lot of good side. I've been a Dodger fan ever since I was born.
Yeah.
But I don't like the spin, a daily spin on everything's great.
Yeah.
I like the spin of why are we having all these surgeries?
Right.
Where's Grove? Where's Stone? Where's all these guys? We don't even know where they're at. Gratterall. I can name 20 guys. Where are they? These are guys. My family's season ticket holders since the Dodgers came to LA.
Yeah.
We pay a lot of money to watch Dodger games and to go to them, spend on concessions. How about an honest report on a player that I like that we haven't seen in the last year and a half?
Yeah. I like to name check Kyle Hurt whenever we talk about Hurt Dodgers, not because of his name, but because I know his family checks it and they want to see their kid's name in there.
Yeah,
and so someone from that family always lifts it up.
He's hurt and we haven't heard of him.
Yeah.
Where is he hurt? Is he in Arizona? Is he with LA? Did he have a Tommy John? I mean, let's care about Hurt because he blew his arm out with the Dodgers program of spin rate and velo.
Can I put my Players Association hat on? They had him on the minor league roster, I think, when he got hurt, even though he was like right there at the edge. And so he's hurt, but minor league. And so totally different financial situation.
Oh, it's big time. That I've experienced that. So that's why you have agents and their grievances and things are done wrong. And, we read about some of that on X. Wynn's not calling a guy up. They're waiting a day to save $4,000, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, some of that is business, right? But if you say, hey, Tony Gonsolin, wear it for us, your arm is going to blow out. You want to go out there. He's a warrior. But you got to pay that guy for that, if he goes out there, right? And
Catman and the Catman has worn it.
Yeah. Okay. And we've seen this with, and I'm just using the Dodgers as an example, but we've seen this for the hey, we're going to call, like Ed Sheehan, he came in and he came back and he had a good outing and they sent him down. Okay, that's the mechanics of the game and managing a roster. But when I don't know, was it Ryu? Somebody was close to making that next plateau for making money, and they bounced him down to the minor leagues and he didn't get it. And I get it, roster crunch, and it was a smart move, but at the penalty of that player's incentive, where if a team had a little more stability, he would have got paid. And I forget who it was. It was somebody like Ryu or I don't know. It's just
great pitch. Yeah. We need more guys like Ryu because they never have an arm problem.
Yeah.
They're pitchers, not throwers. You're absolutely right, Pete, about the there's two ways to look at it quickly.
Yeah.
When you have primarily the experienced analytic type of men running teams or women, the decision by baseball people in the areas you just tapped on would be different. Okay? So their decision making from a baseball person, former player, a former coach, would be much different than a front office and or a player's op guy. It's just business. I mean, look at the Dodger guys. Look at Sauer. That guy is abused. And every time he throws 4 innings and takes it for the club, boom, AAA. Sheehan would have never been sent down by a baseball GM.
Yeah.
Because he showed he's healthy and he should be in the starting rotation after the start.
Yeah.
But
and I know that's an old way of doing it, but it's also an honorable way of doing it.
Well, we're right back to accountability and respect for the game.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into this. This topic makes me hot, but the position players pitching.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind that too much. It is happening more than usual. And I'd like to see them try, I don't want to see just little lollipops. I want to see them do it.
Bother you? Tell me why.
Because the game's out of hand, and these guys are so delicate. I don't need to see, some. Because the other thing is they're just going to crank waiver wire guys through, and that's not going to be fair to them dudes either. I mean, maybe they'll get some major league time. I don't know. It just doesn't bother. It doesn't happen that often. Granted, Kike has got about 6 innings now, but.
No, but it bothers me as a former player because, in my opinion, it's a disrespect to the game because you're not using a professional pitcher competing for 9 innings or extra inning games.
Yeah, yeah.
To the Dodgers, Kike Hernandez is making a mockery of the game.
Yeah.
There's this. I'm not going to use any profanity, but the helmet he's wearing is a mockery. Hey, if he's wearing a helmet, why not everyone else?
Right.
Why don't we have helmets where every guy's wearing a pitcher's helmet?
Yeah.
And then it's not a professional game. When he enters the game, it is no longer a professional game. It becomes a circus. Are the fans paying for Kike to pitch? I'm not paying $480 for season tickets to watch Kike pitch in a Major League Baseball game.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I understand that. Yeah, I understand that part of it for sure.
Yeah.
When the Giants bring in Logan Porter in the game on the 14th, right? The Dodgers were up by, I don't know, more than 6 runs, maybe 10 runs even. I think the Giants brought Logan Porter out. Now, granted, he's got pitcher in his title, but he's a catcher, right? And he's barely a major leaguer at this point. No critique on him, but this is not someone he's brought in to eat innings in this blowout game. Is it okay then to have Kike? Because that's what happened. Kike came in after that, if I remember correctly. For sure, Porter pitched. For sure, Kike pitched on that game on the 14th. What do you think? Is it okay? Like if they say, Uncle, can you bring in somebody else?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. This is my opinion.
Yep.
Is when you have 13 pitchers on your roster, which is more than it's ever been. The Dodgers.
So many pitchers.
Arms. How can you not plan and prepare with your 5 or 6 games a week to be able to complete professional baseball games with an actual professional pitcher?
Yeah.
In the case of the Dodgers situation, we're seeing waiver wire arms because their guys are blowing out.
Yeah.
Why isn't this happening everywhere else?
That's a good question, right? I mean, the Dodgers spend a lot of money on seeing players, and look, anybody could have had Anthony Vonda. Anybody could have had him, but he's a Dodger and he's done pretty well. Phil Bickford, right? Anybody could have had that dude, but they turned him into a useful arm. So they see those guys and they give them a shot. They do something with them. That's the good side.
It's called creating value when you sign guys or you develop them. They're creating player value. My focus and negative attitude is these things we're hitting on with, I mean, the guy has 6 appearances in a game, Pete. Kike Hernandez.
Yeah, he does. He's starting to become one. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's pitching right.
He's not. And we're using him, and it's like all of a sudden we're using him because there's some analytic influence of saving arms. Plus, the Dodgers got to save every inning they have because the bullpen's taxed.
Well, and why is the bullpen taxed?
Well, who's the manager?
Yeah.
I mean, the Dodgers lead the league in the fewest innings pitched by starters.
Yeah.
And I know some analytics. Okay, so why is that?
Yeah.
We had the other night, we had someone yanked in the 5th inning at 82 pitches. Why?
Yeah. No, I know it. Yeah.
Yeah, so none of the things that we hear from the broadcasters or the news feeders are accurate. Less pitches, less arm injuries. Oral Hershiser, that's complete garbage. He used to go 130, 140 pitches a game. Now he's on his broadcast saying, God, if you go 80, you got to warm someone else up.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It is. I mean, look, it is like two sides of a coin a lot of times, but you're right. It is frustrating. I mean, I just watched Kershaw pitch on that same game and I don't think he broke 92 miles an hour. Maybe he snuck a 93 mile an hour fastball by me, but 93. And he's got, for him, terrible, but for anybody else, good location. And so as long as he's walking that tightrope, he's getting not just dudes out, swinging and missing still. Now, look at Clayton Kershaw, but this is Clayton Kershaw 2 grades below where he was when he was able to pump it in there at 95, sometimes 96.
That's cool.
And what's that?
He's a pitcher. He has been for a long period of time. So when we're increasing the velo and adding the spin rate, does that make you a better pitcher?
Right.
That's a topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making pitchers healthier. So we can go over guys like Kershaw and Yarborough from the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's a spot starter, long man.
Right.
Doesn't break 90 miles an hour. He's healthy. He's valuable. So I like guys like that because they don't get hurt, and they're not buying into this is the only way to be successful. Right.
Yeah, and I know it's if they're given a chance and allowed to develop, and I don't know how you fix that, but yeah, and I'll use Joe Blanton as an example. Joe Blanton would throw you a ball from like low 90s to high 70s, any pitch in that zone, and he would hit the entire frame. So he was making dudes work. So he used velocity in a different way to get guys out. Look, was Joe Blanton a great pitcher? No, but if you find guys like that, he can go out and they can eat up innings. I'm not saying Sean Estes needs to be on every staff, but these are guys that didn't throw very hard, and they could eat innings. They could stay healthy. Matt, I don't want to see guys destroying their elbows. And you and I both know this. Medical world knows this. He only had 75 starts in the last elbow. He won't get 75 out of this one.
Well, the guy threw 18 pitches and started a baseball game the other night or the other day. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that starter go 18 and he's done.
Yeah.
Whether we're not preparing leading up to our outings properly, we don't know how to ramp up quicker. The conditioning's different, whatever it is. I mean, when I caught in the big leagues, I caught some great pitchers. Jimmy Key, Dave Steve, who should be a Hall of Famer. These guys threw every week. They went 7 and 8 innings, and they never had an arm problem. So why, and again, I'm an ardent care guy because of my personal experiences. Why isn't that? Why can't that still be? Does the data say that pitchers that throw below 90 can't have success? That's complete garbage.
Right.
It's the spin rate and the velo analysts that are pushing their narrative of you got to throw harder and the spin's got to be better.
You cut so Jimmy Key, fantastic pitcher. You've seen these guys also, and that you caught. I'm sure maybe you didn't catch him, but I imagine you might have caught Jim, or you played with Jim Clancy. There's another guy that would
Diamond,
Jim Clancy.
absolutely. These
Would
guys,
he even make the big leagues today?
Clancy,
Yeah,
you know what? That you know, possibly.
yeah.
Steve,
It should be yes, right? It's. I mean, he was good. That's a good pitcher.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know.
I'm fortunate in my short big league experience to catch some guys that were really, really good, and they
Yeah.
roll 4 pitches, throw them for a strike anytime. You know,
Right.
and see, right now we guess a lot. Hitters guess. Those guys would chew these hitters up today. A Jimmy
Yeah.
that could throw the breaking ball, a slider, similar to Kershaw.
Mm-hmm.
You know, have the velocity Kershaw had when Kersh, was mid 90s.
Right.
But Steve, I mean, his slider was as good, as you could find, and he could control it. The command was excellent. Now you see spin rate sliders, but the command isn't nearly as good.
Yeah.
So I think the influence of the analytics in most cases has been negative. Period. Certainly with catching, a lot with hitting.
Yeah.
Now getting into the pitching injury problem.
You also, I think you mentioned this. I know I have, but this passion for tunneling and making the delivery look so similar that not everybody's built that way. And just like with batting stances and swings, it's like if Ichiro came up, oh heck, how many people hate Luis Arraez because he hits line drives? They don't like it because he's home runs. That's an age-old thing. They got mad at Boggs, they got mad at Tony Oliva, they got mad at all these guys because they're like, I'm just going to make contact and force you to deal with me. And that's look, you played the game. When you have Brett Butler, you played in his. I don't know if you ever played against him. That guy was impossible to get out, and he was a pest. And it put stress. This is Pete talking. You tell me when I'm wrong. It puts stress on batteries, and it puts stress on the infield because you were going to have to deal with the fact that guy might drop down a bunt, and if you made the slightest misjudgment, he's safe. And
100%.
It was crazy, right?
Arraez, he's a pest.
He is.
He breaks up rhythm. He fouls off difficult pitches. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
But the analysts don't like him.
Yeah.
They don't like him because you can't hit the ball over the fence.
Yeah.
His production, he hits in the 2-hole.
Right now, yeah.
Production per at bat. This is the garbage that you get from, analyzing. What about, like you just said, hey, if you're a pest, if you're a pest in the box, then you're getting into the pitcher's head. You're making the catcher call a pitch he shouldn't pitch.
Right.
So the mindset, the pitch calling, the attitude of the pitcher, what's happening, those aren't analyzed. They're not in a computer and on a calculator.
Right. Yeah.
That's what's been taken away. A portion of that gut feeling, gut decision, momentum, those types of things, they've been taken away because of the analytics.
I love this number. So, and I'm for every player. I want them all to do great. Like I don't want them to get hurt. I want everybody to get 10 years in the big leagues. I'm for everybody. So anybody listen to me, understand that's where this comes from. But when I look at someone like Kyle Schwarber and Luis Arraez, and I'll say Luis Arraez sees a fuck ton of pitches, partly because he bats early in the order on a good team, but also he fouls pitches off. He doesn't necessarily worry about taking a walk. He's looking for a pitch to hit. And someone will tell me, well, Kyle Schwarber sees a lot more pitches. And so I did the math. And yeah, he does see more, not a lot more, but he sees more. But if you take all his strike threes away, then they have the exact same number of pitches. So yeah, Arraez is seeing basically the same amount of pitches. He's just not giving up strike three. And he struck out 6 times this year. Six.
That's important. What message does it send? Okay, I love Schwarber.
Yeah, me too.
Why he's seeing the same amount of pitches is because you have pitchers pitching around that power he has.
Yeah.
They fall behind because they're trying to get away with a slider down and in,
Yeah.
or a swing and miss somewhere.
Right.
Arraez is he's a battler.
Yeah.
Why would you ever, as a baseball person, think his style in the batter's box is a negative thing? And there are guys, analysts, teams didn't want him.
Yeah.
On base all the time. He works counts. Everything you could say about that kid is positive.
Well, this again, this is me being an old man, but this is one of the things why I don't like guys like Judge or even Schwarber hitting first in the lineup. I remember when, like, Dusty Baker, I thought was pretty good at putting the lineup together, and it's not like anything other than just watching him do it with the Cubs, with the Giants, all these other teams. But if you have Barry Bonds batting fourth, you always have a problem. He's always there, and again, this is just Pete, not a player, but I'm just going to say it from my observations. You don't protect Barry Bonds. He is the protection. Aaron Judge is the protection. There's nobody you want to face. You're like, oh shit, after Aaron, here comes, anybody in the league, right? Look, like I'm gonna pitch. I don't care about Giancarlo Stanton. I can't let Aaron Judge beat me, right? You can't protect that guy. And
certainly
I don't know.
So why are these guys,
Yeah,
Schwarber, Ohtani, we can go on and on, leading off?
Yeah.
They're leading off because of the analytics.
Right.
I mean, Ohtani has 20-something home runs and 40-something RBIs. If he was hitting third or fourth, he'd have 75 RBIs now.
Yeah.
So it's an analyst. And I don't know where that makes sense. He's your best hitter, so you want your best hitter to get 5 at-bats a game. That has a little bit to do with it. But now it's better for him because of Kim, and the bottom of the order is more productive. But if you have your 7, 8, 9 guys are bad, why are you one of your best hitters lead off?
Yeah. No, it's and there's a chance that the guy batting in front, like right now, I like how the Yankees are structuring their lineup, and these things change, but they got Bellinger right in front of Judge right now. And that puts it on Bellinger. Like, you're going to get pitches to hit. Here's your chance. And obviously, when he's going good,
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, putting a guy in front of a certain guy who's this type of hitter or likes the fastball, that's being done well.
Yeah.
But
okay,
priority of an offense, and the Dodgers are different. They are by far the best offensive ball club on a nightly basis than any team in the game.
Yeah.
You go 1 through 6, and if Muncy gets hot, I mean, there's no one even close.
Right.
So
Muncy's the king of the two homer game. Like when he gets going, he'll have another one, and then he'll go cold for a while. But the Dodgers can withstand that. That'd be tough on the Indians. He wouldn't play if they're in the Indians, but you put him on another team, and it would be hard for him to be as relevant because the more the burden would be on his back.
Well, that's why you pay Max Muncy, a low average, a streaky hitter. When he's hot, he's deadly, and he's inadequate on a good night third baseman. But you pay him your $10 million because of yesterday. Yesterday.
Yeah. This is interesting. I track these things, and again, disagree with me whenever you want to, but I love Ohtani. I live down in Orange County. I went to go see him whenever I could with the Angels, and it's not every day because I'm a busy dude, right? But I saw him as often as possible. So I'm not against him, but I don't see him as being I don't see how he's an MVP on a team that has Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, all these other guys, right? And so I track like what's MVP work game by game. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not Ohtani. Until he got hurt, Teoscar Hernandez had the most MVP things on the team. Now, I don't really give away an MVP if you win by 10 runs because the game is just a blowout. And I don't give really any MVP points if you've lost the game because what's valuable about losing, And so when I look at these outcomes, Mookie has had a number. He's kind of cold now. Teoscar has a lot. Will Smith has a lot, right? And so you have all these guys kicking in pieces of wins, and they have the most. I get that 50 home runs or 60 home runs is impressive, but if you have 4 or 5 guys that have all these things, and then some guy in the Brewers has a great season. I don't know how the guy with the better team is more valuable than the guy with the unexpected success is more
Right.
valuable.
That's interesting. I mean, the Dodgers, you have a group of guys that are helping each other out and splitting up the glory.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Which is great, right?
Brewers,
That's wonderful.
yeah, it is. I
But
I don't know
that,
how the MVP is calculated or if I would even agree with it. I mean, most
yeah,
valuable player, um, obviously Otani last year with the 50-something home runs and the 57 stolen bases.
sure. Yeah.
Offensively, everything else statistically was outstanding.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, I think his global influence helps.
Sure.
I mean, there are extracurricular intangible things that go into that, I would believe. Um, so I'm a team guy.
Yeah.
You should be playing for your team, and then those personal things come if you do well and you work your tail off and you stay healthy.
Yeah. If you're let's put you behind the plate. If you were sitting and trying to work through, let's say the Padres have a very deep lineup. Jackson Merrill was incredible, right? And he usually bats fourth or fifth on that lineup because it's so deep. Cronenworth, there's no easy walk. Who are you looking forward to? Who you're like, okay, we know how to get him out. I mean, and is it Arraez? Is it Tatis because you think he's exploitable? How do you navigate a lineup like that?
Okay, quickly.
Yeah.
Tatis can't hit anything
Hmm.
middle on the
Okay.
third the outside corner. Slider, he's a zero.
Yeah.
So he's looking, and you see, because he comes off that backside, anything middle in, he's hopping on it.
Yeah.
But we saw, and that's why the Dodgers have success. They work him primarily middle away. The slider with that spin rate is deadly. Machado, I would look forward to pitching too. I
Yeah.
would buzz the tower and back him off the plate and then everything away.
Yeah.
His swing on pitches away isn't quite as powerful. He releases one hand off the bat quicker. So,
Yeah.
the Dodgers are having success. Arraez, I'm battling, keeping him off balance, maybe trying to beat him up with the fastball because
Yeah.
anything he hits in the air is an out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's we've seen these guys enough on TV. I don't even know who's calling the games anymore. I heard the Marlins had a non-baseball person on a computer tallying each pitch, and then it's relayed down to the catcher. So I don't know if the catchers now have earpieces along
Yeah.
with the pitcher.
Yeah.
So I don't know if calling a game has been taken away from the catchers now. I wouldn't be surprised if it has, because now you got analysts. And the problem is the analysts, they're not baseball experienced people.
Mm.
Why are we trying to develop the game with people who haven't had any experience with it?
Right. Right. Yeah.
They have a master's in mathematics.
Yeah.
And some statistics and data are productive, but
Sure.
when they're pushing a narrative, in some cases, maybe to keep their job or keep an analytic department,
Yeah.
then we're
Right.
getting honest based data.
Yeah. I was looking the other day at outs made. It's not a favorite stat of mine because it's really noisy. But when you look at a big gap between someone, and I'll use Juan Gonzalez and Reggie Jackson as an example. Reggie Jackson's a clear Hall of Famer. Juan Gonzalez did Hall of Famerish things, but didn't quite make it. PEDs probably hurt his case. But the difference between them making outs, it's 1.5 outs, maybe 1.25 out a week. A week. You can't even see that like in the box scores. You would just notice that over time that you felt like Reggie Jackson was better, but you're not going to see one and a fraction of an out in 6 games or 7 games. You're just not going to see that. That's the difference between someone who's a no doubt about it legend home run guy and a guy who crapped out a little early and didn't make it in. That's the difference. And so quite often these the analyst folks are out there and they're looking for 51%. And if they can find that, they want to take that bet over and over again. And it just, I'm not against it. Look, I know that platoon advantage works. And I know like bunting is usually a bad call. But if you only stack advantages that are small, there's so much other noise in the game. And this is where I think your game knowledge point comes in. You know, like when you play at Wrigley's a different ballpark every time you go. I used to live across the street from Wrigley, and the wind is so crazy there, and that park is so low profile. The wind is always, it's like another player, and you don't know whose team he's on at the time. It's crazy there. And so these micro advantages that you try to accumulate, I don't know that they may, and I'm saying 51%. It doesn't take much to have chaos and chance or wind to change the outcome of a given moment in the game.
No doubt about it, Pete. I mean,
Yeah.
you said two words that caught my ear.
Mm.
Baseball's not a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's my 9 versus you 9, and I have a manager on each side, and I make good decisions based on what I see in the game. It's not predetermined. We have predetermined lineups and pitching when guys are going to the game, regardless of how the game's playing out.
Yeah.
1%. Okay, 51%.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm making decisions that night based on a percentage.
Yeah.
What about momentum? What about how the specific pitcher's throwing that night? Are the pitches coming out of his hand? Is he losing velocity? 51% is garbage to me.
Yeah.
That if we're basing baseball decisions on 51%, there are errors are being made, and that translate into the game declining, which we see on television every night.
Yeah.
The game.
I agree with you.
You're a fan, Pete. The game's not better. Fundamentals are worse. Bunting doesn't exist. Base running's poor. The accuracy in throwing is declined, especially catching.
Yeah.
Catching's declined. Framing's overrated. Blocking's terrible. Blocking is the worst I have seen ever.
Really?
And stolen bases. Now that we've made the new rules, the bigger base can only throw over to first base twice. Now you got catchers just cheating, to get in a better position, throwing sinkers down to second base. I mean, the hitting. I mean, everyone's going for the home run at the big league level. It's a fly ball out. It's juiced balls. What about all the equipment upgrades?
Oh, boy.
Birch bats. Did you know anything about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are bats that are flexing. The wood flexes like a catapult. Back when I played, these guys that were hitting 500 home runs, McGriff, Fielder, Chipper Jones, they were using ash bats.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about that. Like when you're comparing eras, our equipment back when we played was much worse. We weren't using juiced balls.
Yeah.
We were regular, made Rawlings ball. Now that Major League Baseball owns Rawlings, the balls are made differently, and you can tell.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to say about that. And I agree with you. When folks get really precious about outcomes, who controls the ball and who's being obvious about what's going on with the Major League Baseball is not going to tell us about the ball. And so not only does the ball fly better in summertime, but I no doubt in my mind that they use the ball to their advantage. And if they weren't, they would be open about it. And they'd say, here's what we're going to do to prove to you the ball was the same all the time.
Well, I mean, let's face it, home runs draw fans.
Yeah.
The most exciting play in the game. So we have to keep that going.
Yeah.
And how you keep it by the ball and the bats. Now it's the new torpedo bat.
Yeah,
that really worked out well. The Marlins hired the guy.
Yeah.
We got MIT guys coaching and creating equipment so bad hitters can hit the good spot on the bat. That's a complete joke. If you're bad, and you need to make, the adjustments.
But you know how baseball players are. They'll buy any gimmick that might help them out. Remember when everybody wore those copper necklaces for a while and this all that shit?
No, but
I got to ask you this. I don't want to run out of time without asking you this. I picked up a couple baseballs at A's games growing up, right? And not one of them was ever sticky at all. Zero stickiness. Yes, there was some graininess to them or whatever. You could throw it well, but it was never ever sticky. But now I grab if I happen to have a baseball, and I'm like, what is on this ball? It's so tacky. I don't mean tacky like garish. I mean tacky like it's got stickiness to it.
I'll tell you a little private story real quick, Pete.
Yeah.
Go to the Mexican League where I played 10 years.
Okay.
I played 10 years in the Summer League, and I played 10 years in the Winter League, and I managed a little bit down there.
Yeah.
Every single dugout during a game, there is pine tar.
Mm-hmm.
A pitcher has a pine tar pad. So whether it's on their glove, whether they lube up their fingers, I mean, it was the funniest. Like as a hitter, you see, I mean, it's cheating, but you understand why players in Mexico, they don't have the spin rate, at least the older pitchers, and you have 20, 30, 40 guys pitching into their 40s.
Yeah.
The longevity of their careers, which is important because they're making a living for their family.
Yeah.
Pitchers pitch into their 40s. Name the last Mexican arm that you heard ever got hurt.
Yeah.
And I was a scouting supervisor in that area, and I signed some pitching.
Yeah.
Because they're raw and, they're the way they develop pitchers, injury-free, flat ground work. Anyways, we need to start copying countries that are doing things better than us.
Mm.
Korea, Japan, Mexico.
Yeah. 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 You don't have to get into this if you don't want to, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. And I'm not advocating for anybody, so everybody calm down. I watched Major League Baseball throw Trevor Bauer under the bus for something that turned out to be very questionable. It's their business. They can do whatever they want. All I'm asking for is have an open timeline on investigations. It shouldn't take over a year to resolve these things. I mean, they found out that, and look, this is just a fact. They found out that Ohtani didn't gamble at all in about 8 minutes. And Trevor Bauer, it took them a year and a half almost to sort out that he was bad and they were mad at him. And then they essentially threw him out of the game, which is not what the agreement is, right? It's like there's a penalty and then you get to come back. Now, everybody can say, well, no teams wanted to sign him. That may or may not be the case. They did the same thing with Julio Urias. I'm not advocating bad behavior, but I am saying that it doesn't take, if it takes 8 minutes or whatever the number was to figure out that Ohtani was innocent, and then you see Arraez get his second violation. The first one, by the way, he could have fought, and they're like, don't fight it. It's no big deal. We'll just put it past you. And he shouldn't have violated again. But everything was on video. Everybody there was interviewed, and it still took him a year to sort this thing out. Over a year, really.
Yeah.
And so it can't take a year to do that. It just can't.
I mean,
and then if the penalty is going to be death, then say it's a death penalty. You'll never play in the game again. Say it. Don't make this don't be open about what you're going to do, right? It's their business, but be open about your business.
Well, the people making decisions can't say it. They won't get, they won't be accountable for the decisions that are made. So you pointed out 3 guys.
Yeah.
I have my opinions on each of the 3 stories, but
sure.
One 8 minutes, one guy still going on and he's pitching in Japan.
Yep.
And then one guy has gone AWOL. And I know where he lives and I played in the city he lives in.
Mm.
It's Julio Urias.
Yeah.
I mean, where is the guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the Winter League team in his city, is he done? I mean,
maybe.
Then the media, they shut that. We haven't heard anything about Urias in LA. Why?
Right.
The guy was a 5-star arm for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
He was
right.
The organization.
Yeah.
Most Mexican pitchers are. Where is Julio Urias? Why don't we have the right to hear what's going on with him?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's just because he was a free agent. They didn't even suspend him, to my knowledge. Maybe they did, and I missed it. But it shouldn't take. I mean, that should be a month, 2 months. You need 3 months. The open. Be like, here's the open process. We owe you a public update within 100 days. We owe you a final answer within, 200 days with an extension of this, which we'll talk about openly, right? Like, but they don't do that. And then the penalty, if we decide that you're out, is going to be never play the game again. Because then the first infraction, you're like, no, fuck you, I'm going to fight you. And then the Major League Baseball Players Association stands up there with their arms like this, and they're like, we're behind Julio. And again, I'm not approving bad behavior, but where's the path back? Like, yeah, you can come back, but you're going to play at the league minimum for a year, have a clean nose, and then you'll be a free agent, and then you can play. Set those rules up so it's possible for redemption. Because
rules need to be communicated and firm.
Right.
We're exhibiting flexibility in all these different areas.
Yeah.
And how in 8 minutes did we find out that Ohtani, didn't place a bet with the bookie there in Orange County?
Yeah. I know.
Why did you stereotype Arraez? He had an incident with his girlfriend, drinking a couple beers at the soccer game. Now we don't even know where that kid is.
Right.
We know all about power because he's on social media. But he was never charged with anything.
He was convicted of a misdemeanor, and they gave him some non prison time. So it's a misdemeanor beef with that. That for sure happened.
Right.
But again, they decided that in about 60 days, all done.
Yeah, but
that's it.
Accused of this and that. So it's
right.
I wouldn't sign him personally.
Yeah. And that's fine, right? But there should be a path back to allow him to be, even if the league's like, you're a league eligible player now, you can play in the Arizona Development League, and then try to get signed somewhere or whatever it is. I don't know, but there should be some kind of path to redemption.
Peter, there's no path back. There's no, we can say what we want. Mr. Bauer, there is no path back. It's Mexico or it's Japan.
Yeah. Where is the owner, like an Al Davis, who's like, I'll sign that kid, because he wants to win?
Well, it tells you that, is ownership in cahoots?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is an owner wanting to sign a good pitcher? I don't believe he's a very good teammate. And there's a lot of other flaws that he brings to the table.
You're talking about Bauer or Arraez?
Bauer.
Okay, Bauer, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, this guy is an eye guy. He wants to do his program, do his thing. So there are flaws, documented flaws in his game and what he brings to an organization. But, like you said, where is the process when these things happen to these players back to, is it they'll never play again, the death penalty?
Yeah.
Or you need to, find employment elsewhere, or you got to spend a year, in the minor leagues, or no pay, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is, right?
Flexibility, and you wonder, does a larger, powerful agent have more influence if it's one of his guys?
Boy, yeah. You
start getting into some shady stuff.
Yeah.
The word accountability again.
Yeah. Well, accountability and transparency fix a lot of things, and Major League Baseball spends so much time and effort on messaging. They should say, we're a place that doesn't abide abuse, but also we're a place that allows redemption. And so here is our path. And we want our Players Association to be on board with us on this, because I'll tell you right now, if Marvin Miller was around, Major League Baseball would act differently. I no beef with Tony Clark, but he's not Marvin Miller. Marvin Miller would have that ass. He'd have Major League Baseball listening, and it wouldn't be players disappeared.
So, Tony, I played against, but, is it the leadership? Is it, revenue and contract based?
Yeah.
Decisions based on those things.
Yeah.
What about what's just best for the game? What about the game? Is there any thought of that at all in baseball now? Preserving the game of baseball, hustle, fundamentals. We can't break double play anymore. We can only throw over to first base 2 times. We can't bunt because a geek in the analytics department said we can't.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
I know. I like when they say something is dangerous in the field, and they get really fluttered about it. And I'm like, do you realize that Wrigley still has a brick wall and steel roll-up doors in the outfield? You know, like they get mad at whatever Oakland because it's got a slippery batting box, and it's like, hey, go check out Wrigley. I don't know if you know this story, but so I used to live right across the street, like I was saying. I was flying home into Chicago, and it was so windy, like our plane was just hopping all over the place. Scary for a lot of people. People were gasping on the airplane. That's how windy it was. It was so windy it blew over our barbecue, and we were on the third story of one of those rooftop buildings, right? Eli Marrero is playing center field, and it's so fucking windy, he blows out his knee trying to catch a pop fly. That's how windy it was. And I forgot what I was going to say about all that, but I guess let me ask you this. And then we'll wrap it up. I know we talked about a lot of things that we don't like, the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, some of the dumb number things that we don't like. What do you like? What players are exciting to you that you like to see? Don't just say Dodgers if you got other ones, but what do you like about today's game?
Okay, I like players that are well-rounded. So Mr. Edman comes to someone who's unselfish, can do things broadly well, bunt, steal, hustle, slide, dive to knock down a ground ball, versatility defensively. To me, that's an all-around baseball player. I love that, guys like that. And each team, a few. Edmund, to me, the new kid from Korea, Kim, is similar to that. Unselfish, put the ball in play, good two-strike approach, versatile, great base runner, will do whatever it takes to have success and win a game. Those players, in my opinion, there's not a lot of them left. I love those guys.
Yeah, they're fun. Okay. I will say this about the Dodgers and Geeks and Kim, and I love Kim as a player. I want to see him on the field more. But he does not belong in center field. That is not a professional center fielder out there. He gets beat on routes and balls way too often. If look, the defense, because there's less balls in play, you can put Max Muncy at third and let him play there into his mid-30s. That wasn't possible when there were more balls in play. And so maybe that's part of the drawback. But I have not seen Kim be a good enough center fielder
in the front office.
Say it again.
Are you reading the data in the front office? Okay,
no, I'm not.
I see daily. Edmund should be in center, and Kim should
I agree.
be in base.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
This is where the game's change as well. Outside of the white lines, was Kim made a promise where his agents were told, "We'll get him in the outfield X amount of games." Yeah. There's kickbacks, corruption, and promises outside the white lines. And sometimes decisions are based on that. We know that Kim's a better second baseman than he is center fielder. So why are we switching back and forth? And the reason is it's something outside of what's happening on the field. Yeah. I'm not a fan of that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
On what you see and what we're seeing on the field during the competition.
I'm going to tell you one player that I like because I like guys that start early and survive. You don't have to thrive when you're young, but Jackson Chourio, at least the start of this year, was the second year in a row for being the youngest player. And he plays in the Brewers and plays center field primarily. And he's just great. And it's fun to watch him out there playing because guys like that, guys that come up and they are young, 20 years old, anything they do now and to 25 years old, when they go for a full career, those numbers are huge on the back end, because guys who come up at 24, 25, they don't have all those earlier years of seasoning and stat padding. And so they tend to sneak up in terms of Hall of Fame status or just having a sneaky great career because he's already put up MVP quality events. Now, he's not an MVP, but he's doing things that MVPs do. He just needs to do them more often. But at 21 years old, a young 21, man, I can't wait to see what he's going to do. I check his box score every day to see what he's done. And I just root so hard for him to get hits and to anything, get a walk, get a hit, score a run, drive in a run, any of those ones in your column, man, that's just exciting to me.
I love the manager over there with Milwaukee, the old Arizona State coach.
Yeah.
He's building his future. He's coachable. He's having early success. He's
Yeah.
building to that big contract, and
Yeah.
he's developing and improving. Those are guys you want in your organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's going to be a free agent at 25 years old. How great is that? I mean, that's those guys don't come along too often if they don't snap
He's
them up early in the
healthy.
sport.
If he stays healthy and
Yep.
continues to be a solid player, which he's shown, he'll
Yeah.
be set for life.
Hey, I want to wrap this up. And first of all, thanks, man. I had a great time chatting with you. It's just great to talk baseball, but in general, talking with somebody who's played and managed and done all the things that you've done. I'd love to have you come back sometime and talk some more. And if you got something stuck in your craw and you want to get out, come on the show and do it here. But anything in closing before we wrap it up?
No, I appreciate your time. You know, you just caught an experienced old player on X. I appreciate you extending an invitation, and hopefully some of the negative topics we went over, we'll see improvements or different trends.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and no doubt about it, whatever it is, baseball's fun to watch. And, boy, the drama of that Dodger game the other night when they were catching up and there was all the bench clearing stuff, that was a great game. You know,
That
just a
was once or twice a month in the
yeah.
minor league when I played. I mean, we saw that that was great.
Yeah, yeah, it
It
was
was.
exciting.
You know, it was if the game was policed by players, you know, no one ever mentions this on X or anywhere else.
Mm,
When you hit one of my best players 3 times, someone's
yeah,
going down no matter what,
yeah.
if it was on purpose or not. The
They didn't
Tatis was
mention.
banged 3 times, Otani's
Yep.
going down. And
Yeah,
Schulte over there, their manager, is an old school guy.
she sure is.
So you know
Yeah.
that's happening.
You know who else was old school in that whole thing? And I forget which which event it was. I think it must have been when Otani got hit and he started waving, stay, stay, stay. The first guy over the rail, the first guy, another old school guy, Kershaw. He's like, let's go. And he's out there to go do his fucking job as a leader, you know. And I don't know who all the big leaders are on all the teams. I try to figure it out, and it's tough. Look, I know Aaron Judge is captain, right? He's a good leader, but you know that Kershaw's a leader when his old ass is out there like, oh, we're gonna go take care of this right now, you know. And it's great to see some of that old style
Yeah,
stuff being done still.
enjoyable for me to watch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, I'm going to turn this thing off. Everybody else, I will talk to you probably tomorrow. And Matt, I'll come say goodbye to you in a sec. Stand by.